you as a listener, you are directly affected by your own experiences and by your own understanding. So when you're listening to someone, it makes a huge difference to really get to know your own self. One brother, he told me he was having some issues in his marriage, and so he went to a imam, very respectable, very knowledgeable imam, mashallah, and he went to him and he was expressing his frustration and issues he was having with his wife. And he said, as I was talking to him, the imam started complaining about his wife and about things going on in his marriage. And he said, I came out from that meeting feeling very pessimistic about relationships, feeling more discouraged about making my relationship work. And what our beloved imam, maybe he didn't realize, is that his own experience, because he was having issue in his marriage as well, he was having arguments, unconsciously, without even him realizing, he actually was expressing his own experience and his own understanding. And so your own life makes a big difference. The imam might not even have intended that, but it just comes off. So when you're speaking to someone, when you're listening to someone, you have to really get to know yourself. The hadith that I have been sharing throughout these videos, and the hadith about al-mu'min mir'at wal-mu'min, believers are like mirrors. There's one interesting aspect of that hadith, which is that a mirror is very clear, right? So it reflects with clarity. A good mirror reflects with clarity. If the mirror is bent, the curvature, it will reflect your image, either very skinny or very small, because the curvature makes a difference. If it's not a clear mirror, if it's not a clean mirror, there will be dirt reflected back, there will be scratches reflected back. But a really good mirror reflects exactly that which you project onto it. You can imagine like a river. You have a nice calm river, and you throw a pebble. You could feel the ripple effect, right? You throw the pebble in and you feel the ripple effect. Versus an ocean, right? A violent ocean, right? Constantly moving. And you throw a pebble in it, you're not even going to know where the pebble went. And so if you internally are like an ocean, and people come to you and they're trying to talk about their work, or they're trying to talk about their family, and internally you have a storm going, you're not going to be able to reflect back with them, be present in that conversation. You just can't, because you have a lot of going on. So someone comes to you and they want to talk about their job, and you're so focused on the current election, because that's a big importance. You're constantly connected to your news feed, and so as you listen to them, you will find any channel possible to give back to the political conversation. Or the other way around, where you are so focused on your business, and someone coming to tell you about a very important, significant happening in our national politics that affecting their family, but you're so concerned about maybe the Super Bowl, and you just don't care about it. So you find a way to shift the conversation back to Super Bowl, or back to your business, because it's just not inside you. You're in a whole different planet, right? So it's very important. In psychology, this is known as transference, countertransference. It's an entire subject. A therapist, psychologists are trained to learn their own transference and your own countertransference. As a therapist, for example, if you have your own teenage son or daughters, and then you are working with a teenager, you would find that all of a sudden, maybe you are with your patient or with your client, you're being more harsh. You're taking it very personally, right? It might be because your own experience with your own son or daughter is coming out, right? And that's why the therapists and psychologists are trained that if you went through certain trauma, right, if you are a victim of domestic violence and you are working with the abuser, you might need to be very careful to see that your own emotions are not are there. So sometimes sisters having an issue with her marriage, and she goes to another sister who just went through a divorce, or who had a bad experience with the brother, and she starts to project that onto that person, and they ruin relationships. or business, right? You go to someone who's in failing in their business, and you go and say, hey, I'm trying to start a new project, this new, I'm bootstrapping this new idea that I have, and they go, no, it's not gonna work, get a career, it's not the way to go. You don't understand, you're not really listening to that person, you're not really analyzing from their shoes the positives and the negatives, what's working for them, is it the right choice for them, do they have the right idea, do they have the right team, is it the right time in the market? Just to you, because you've been failing, just don't forget that, just get a job or whatnot. Or you're experiencing your particular career, you're in IT field and you have had some failures in getting promotions or whatnot, and somebody, young college student comes to you and says, IT field, no, it's dying field, all the jobs that are now overseas, and you give this a negative perception, or it could be too positive. Maybe you had such a good experience. Imagine you talk to someone who just newly married, right? And they're highly excited about their life, their new experiences. When they give you, if I go and say, brother, or sister, can I want some advice, because then you just got married, some advice about married life, and they will give you the most positive experience possible, right? Because their whole world inside right now is in like high level of romance going on, right? Or you talk to someone who just had a kid and it's kind of these are transitions, right? In marriage, for example, when a couple have their first child, it's a big transition. So a lot of times there are arguments, there are problems, and you go to that sister or that brother, and they have that transition period, and you go about marriage. They go, it's okay, take your time, brother. Marriage has its challenges, and you like, okay, you're the same person that 2 years ago just like what happened, because your own experiences. And you need to be, as a listener especially, and as a speaker, you need to be able to know your own circumstance. Right? Know really where you're coming from. Know that this is my life, this is my circumstance, this is how I view life, this is what my experiences have been, whether it be trauma, whether it be a good experience. And as I'm listening to this person, his life is unique. Her life is unique. I can't project my life onto him or her. My relationship with my parents might be beautiful, and there might not be. And so I have to be very careful when I'm projecting onto that. In therapy, sometimes I work with a couple, and the sister, her father left her mother when she was young, right? She cheated on the mom, and Muslim family, and she would have such a very careful and always suspicious of her husband. I said, no, he's not cheating on you. He just on Facebook, okay, he just messaged some individuals, and no, he's not trying to flirt with other women and so forth. But her mindset goes rightly. First place is there, because she know when she was young, when she was teenagers, she remember her father cheating on her mom, and so that experience is projected now onto the person she is married to. So knowing yourself is so important, and knowing your triggers. Certain things is a trigger for you. If looking at people unjust. How people, oftentimes, for example, this is on a more of a social political realm. Sometimes a non-Muslim Western woman would look at a Muslim woman and say, they would project their feeling of oppression, their feeling of them fighting for their woman's right, and they would project that onto a woman who is totally happy with wearing hijab, totally made that her own choice, but they would project that onto that person and say, no, I think you need to get a little more freedom, or there's some issues there, or it could be vice versa. Where some a Muslim might look at a non-Muslim and say, your life must be really horrible. Your life must be, because obviously you don't have Islam, so you must be in a lot of depression. No, not all the Muslims who doesn't have, not all the non-Muslims are in depression. Yes, Islam would give them more peace and more time, but they might not be in depression. I mean, you don't go around with the mindset that he's non-Muslim, so he must be having a lot of unsatisfaction in his life, because of course he doesn't have Islam. That might not be true. He might be pretty well happy. Now he will have that complete happiness, and definitely he misses out on on signing up for Jannah. That's for sure. But he might not be so depressed as you think, just because he's a non-Muslim. Right? Actually, you might be suffering from depression, even with your iman, because those are two separate things, right? So, being able to be very aware of your own triggers, your own mindset, your own experiences that you went through, trauma, abuse, your own failures. And as parents, for example, right? Because for example, immigrant parents, they experience a lot of failures. Or they experienced tough life back in the countries they came from, where social mobility was directly correlated with education, right? So them getting education, getting higher education, getting to a better college, getting to a better degree, resulted in you getting out of the slums, you having some money to support your family. But maybe where their kids are growing up, there are other opportunities for wealth. There are entrepreneurship. There are different projects to get involved to. They might not necessarily need to only be doctors in order to have financially, luxury, financially free, financial stability. But in their mind, they project that because they have experienced the only way you could be financially, a solvent. What I remember from my country is if you are a physician, right? That was the ultimate. But that might not be the case where your children are growing up. And it's definitely not the case. But it's understanding where your triggers are when you're talking to your own experiences. So you came to a turmoil family, you experienced turmoil as a child, and you came here and as immigrant parents again, you got stability. So now whenever your child your teenager, your college going daughter wants to try something new, wants to take on a project, wants to do this service, you're like, no, that's too many variables involved. It's too complicated, and you just afraid of the world, them taking initiative, them going in 3 months to a research facility. You're just scared of any big changes like that because you have experienced it. So knowing who you are, knowing what you experience, knowing your own triggers, and even in a workplace, you as a manager, you have your own criteria. You're worried about reporting to the VP. You're focused not on the quality of the work, maybe just monthly reports. But your employee might be in a whole different mindset. The people that you're under you, they're in a whole different mindset. So, but when you talk to them, you're projecting your own needs, your own understanding, your own triggers onto that person. So, being able to be people who really do some self-reflection, really sit down and say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, this is what I have experienced, this is how I view life. This is my political stance. These are my social stance. And so, when I'm talking to someone, they're not in the same world. My mirror, my prism is different, very different from them. My experience is very different from them. So putting yourself in their shoes, and I had a whole video just talking about how do you put yourself in their shoes, and part of that is really knowing yourself. So you got to do some deep reflection on your own history, on your own childhood, your own relationship with your parents growing up, your current financial situation, your current struggles, your current success. And when you have that, you can really be able to put yourself in that place. You're doing financially really well, or you're doing really good in school, but your neighbor, or you go to a family gathering and one of your cousins, they're not doing so well financially. But you go there and you talk to them, and you're so optimistic and upbeat, and everything's going well, things are going great, amazing. But that might not be the case, and for them, their world experience is different. The classic experience, would be in politics, right? How whether you be Democrats or Republicans, how you experienced our current president was based on your own worldview, your own newsfeed. Your newsfeed actually is your world. I mean, you look at different people's newsfeed, it's a whole different world. Right, so somebody's newsfeed is piled up with articles and panic mode, and somebody's newsfeed is piled up with just optimism and just contentment and finally after 8 years, and you see the drastic world difference, right? Same events are happening, but people are experiencing totally two different directions. And so if we are going to engage at an individual level, and you're going to take this lesson and apply it at a social, political level, at a national level, at an international level, you have to really be able to put yourself in their shoes. Now you might disagree, you might agree, but it's not about who has the right experience. It's about opening the channel of communication, and then you can have a dialogue. So here's a summary. Number one, when you're listening, realize that your own life, your own experience, your own mindset affects how you listen, how you perceive, and what you end up saying to the person, whether it be at a professional, whether it be professional life, at work, at the mess, or would it be in your personal life, with your children, with your friends, and with your family. Number two, do a deep soul search. Just sit down and think about what you experienced in your life from your childhood. What you experienced growing up. What traumas you have. What successes you have, and realize how that might impact you. Number three, this is very important. When you listen to someone, you talk to someone, think about who do they remind you. So when you are listen to someone, think about, okay, who does this person remind me of in my life? Because in many cases, you're going to project those feelings that you have about that person onto this new person. So always when you're talking to someone, say, who does this person remind me of? Who in my life I have a similar relationship with? And when you know that, say, hey, this person is not them, so I have to give them a blank space. I have to give them a fresh beginning. I have to give them the benefit of doubt. So you always try to think about when you're talking to someone, who does this person remind me of, and then try to hold back those biases, hold back those prejudice, because you're automatically going to start assigning those things. So they remind you how they talk about like a cousin, like a aunt, and you're going to start projecting those good feelings or bad feelings depending on the person. So number one, definitely know that you yourself, your experience affect the person. Number two, do a deep soul search on your own childhood experience and so forth. Number three, when you talk to someone, definitely ask yourself the question, who does this person remind me of, and am I projecting those same feelings onto this new person?